أهلا بكل الذين ينضموا للاستماع إلى راديو بلدي أول راديو عربي أمريكي ويعنى بقضايا العرب في المهجر. برامجنا في راديو بلدي كل يوم جمعة من 8 وحتى 9 صباحا مع ليلى الحسيني في بث حي ومباشر وعبر WNZK راديو 690 AM. صباح الخير بلدي، صباح الخير لكل مستمعينا.
Welcome to Radio Baladi, the first Arab, Middle Eastern and American simulcast radio show. Radio Baladi is broadcast every Friday morning on WNZK 690 AM from 8 until 9 Eastern Time on Good Morning Michigan with Layla Al-Husseini. Our call-in number 248-557-3300. And now, stay tuned for the best radio talk show on Arab and American issues with your host, Layla Al-Husseini.
Today's show is brought to you by IBCAP and Kanor Hala.
كنت أبحث عن اشتراك في خدمة تلفزيونية جديدة، لكن صاحب المتجر أخبرني عن IPTV Box والتي تحتوي على القنوات العربية.
ادفع لمرة واحدة فقط واستمتع بالقنوات المميزة مدى الحياة مجانا.
أوه يا له من عرض! لقد ظننت أنني تسرعت في الشراء، وفي غضون أسبوعين بدأت قنواتي المفضلة في الاختفاء. حاولت الاتصال بالشركة، عندها اكتشفت أنه ليس لدي تصريح لمشاهدة القنوات المميزة. يا لها من مضيعة للمال والوقت.
تفضل بزيارة checkyourbox.com اليوم للتأكد من أن جهاز IPTV Box الخاص بك مصرح به وأن قنواتك المفضلة متاحة وآمنة، ولا تنخدع بالسعر فقط.
Ramadan Mubarak. Kanor Halal is donating to Islamic Relief USA to help feed over 1,000 people this Ramadan. Through June 14th, visit www.kanorramadan.com to click on the good deeds you've done, and together let's give hope to those in need. You can also share e-cards and delicious iftar recipes. Share the kahar and visit kanorramadan.com to support Kanor Halal's donation today.
And good morning, everybody. This is Ray Hanania, and you're listening to Yella Fight Back Radio from Chicago, broadcasting in Detroit on AM 690 WNZK Radio. It is Friday, June 8th, 2018, and we'll be taking your calls at 248-557-3300. Yella Fight Back Radio is part of the U.S. Arab Radio Network, hosted by Layla El-Husseini, in an effort to energize and empower Arab Americans to stand up for their rights. I love those words, energize and empower. For more information, you go to my website at www.hanania.com. The radio show call-in number again is 248-557-3300. You can read all my columns in English at thedailyhookah.com. Most of them on the Middle East are published at thearabnews.com. And I also write for a group of about 8 newspapers in Illinois and the Chicagoland area on Chicago politics, which is what I've spent 45 years of my life focused on as a journalist, writer, and now communicator. We got a great guest coming up, and I'll introduce him in a few minutes, but I have to say this morning, it's a real tragedy to learn that Anthony Bourdain is dead. He died at the age of 61. It looks like it happened maybe this morning or early this morning, and he reportedly committed suicide. For those of you, he's a celebrity chef, very popular. He did a show on CNN. He was working in France, I think, on an upcoming episode of his award-winning series, Parts Unknown. And he focused on food, but at the same time he focused on the culture. And I remember it took him 7 years, but in 2013, which was I think about 5 years ago, he did a little piece on food in Israel and Palestine. And he's half Jewish, and he took a beating from extremists in the Jewish community because he seemed to sympathize with the both sides. He presented both sides fairly. And Camera, they've attacked me, Camera, so many times. I guess I could call them racist because they don't like Arabs. But Camera, they're just goofs. They can't get anything right. Political spin, propaganda, whatever, hate sometimes. They really took after Anthony Bourdain. And it's a badge of honor, I think, to be attacked by Camera. So, that's a terrible thing. So this morning we do pay homage to Anthony Bourdain, who died. He committed suicide reportedly this Friday morning. And it's just sad. He's one of my favorite shows that I like to watch. First, I love food, as every Middle East person does, right? I cook Arabic food. I love cooking. There's nothing like cooking Middle East food and Arabian food. I like to call it Arabian because, it's not the Middle East, it's the Arab world. Let's be honest, okay? Maybe I'm just trying to be nice to other people when I say Middle East or even Mediterranean. It's not the Mediterranean diet, it's the Arab diet. And we should get used to that. I hate this religious thing, where everybody's Muslim or everybody's Christian or everybody's Jewish. I'm Arab. I love being Arab. And I especially love Arab food. But we still wish everybody, Jewish, Christians, and Muslims, all the respect that they deserve as religion. And of course, Ramadan Kareem, Ramadan Mubarak to all our Muslim friends out there. And I know we have a big Chaldean community, which is why I'm excited to say that we got one guest that the Chaldean community is really gonna like, and that is Michael Rakowitz. Michael Rakowitz is an Iraqi artist, and for the past few years, he has been recreating Iraqi artwork that was destroyed. And we're waiting for him to call in. Hopefully he's gonna be calling in. I just emailed him again. Been trying to get this show with him for 2 months. So we'll talk about him, but he hasn't called in. But as soon as he calls in, we'll put him on the air. But this guy is just fascinating, and I'm not a expert on Iraqi history, of course, and Iraqi culture, but he has rebuilt. I think there's something, the Iraqi cultural images like the Lamassu, and it's a Sumerian and Assyrian and Chaldean and Iraqi protective deity that's often depicted as having a human's head, the body of a bull or a lion, and bird's wings. And it's portrayed to represent sometimes a female deity, god. But that was one major icon that was destroyed during the war and by ISIS and ISIL. And he rebuilt that using Iraqi food label can. And that's how I came to know him, because he used products from the Chicago area from Ziyad Brothers. And it was just kind of fascinating. So they built this huge thing. They put it in Trafalgar Square in London. It's massive. It's not small. I don't know, it's because I'm thinking of Middle Eastern food still. And maybe I'm just upset that Anthony Bourdain committed suicide. But that's what we're going to be talking about. And hopefully Michael Rakowitz is going to call in, because he's unique. I mean, I went to his website at michaelrakowitz.com. Michael Moskowitz. Whoop. Hang on here just a second. Let's get that. Rakowitz. There it is. michaelrakowitz.com. I don't know why Michael Moskowitz came up. I don't know who he is. Michael Rakowitz has some really cool stuff that he's published, and you should go to his website at michaelrakowitz.com, Rakowitz, and look at some of the things. Dar es-Sul. He's actually part Jewish, and he talks about the rights and respects that Jews have in the Arab world. And he writes on his website that Jews were once Arabs too. Their exodus from Arab lands is one that has been propagandized and mythologized by Israel, by the flawed narrative of Zionism, and by other entities in order to bolster specific cultural and political positions. So this guy's a fascinating guy. So we're going to bring him on as soon as he calls in. I know Michael let me know. And we will actually, why don't we take our first break right now, and we'll get ready waiting for him. You're listening to Yellow Fight Back Radio, broadcasting live from Chicago through WNZK AM Radio 690 in Detroit. Our number is 248-557-3300. It is June 8th, and again, sad news this morning. Anthony Bourdain has committed suicide, and he's gone. I know he's loved by a lot of people in the Middle East, loved by people who love food. I'm Ray Hanania. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll take some calls, and we'll talk about more issues here at Yellow Fight Back Radio, U.S. Arab Radio. We'll be right back right after these messages.
Life is full of experiences. Some of them are good, some of them are not that good. Some of them leave deep memories in us and help us change towards the better.
Every night here at the ICD, we have iftars underneath a huge tent where people can come and just enjoy a meal here at the masjid. Afterwards, we have Taraweeh prayers led by a renowned scholar in Qari, Nadi Kishik. Parents, please bring your babies and your toddlers and the children and put them into our different babysitting programs where you can have khushu' during salah. Afterwards, throughout the month of Ramadan, we have different competitions, different lectures where we can compete and increase for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you have any questions, please call us at 313-584-4143 or visit us at www.icdonline.org.
كل سنة والجاليات العربية كلها بخير. معاكم شيف أحمد إبراهيم من سوبر ماركت زمزم المطعم. عندنا أكلات كتير عراقية ومصرية ولبنانية زي جلابة وتشيكن طاووق وكباب ومسقعة، وأحيانا بنعمل الملوخية والكشري وفراخ مشوية، وكل اللي انتوا عايزينه موجود عندنا. تفضلوا زورونا في محلات زمزم. كل سنة والجالية العربية بخير ورمضان كريم.
When you're looking for the best in optical care, Dr. Imad Nakash is your doctor to see. With years of experience and thousands of successful procedures performed, you can trust your eyes to Dr. Imad Nakash. See Dr. Imad Nakash and his professional staff for your eye care needs. There's 2 locations to serve you. In Hazel Park, call 248-336-3937. 248-336-3937. In Rochester Hills, call 248-299-3937. That's 248-299-3937.
Thanks to our donors' continued and generous support, Life was able to find sponsors for over 5,000 orphans during 2017. Our goal this year is to ensure sponsors for over 10,000 orphans. Every year, Life holds a Eid Carnival where all the orphans enjoy a full day of fun activities, gifts, and much more. Every child deserves a chance. Start your sponsorship today. Life for Relief and Development would like to wish you and your family a blessed Ramadan.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
Ramadan Kareem to all our viewers and listeners in the Arab and Muslim world. I wish, in the name of myself, Dr. Fayek Nicholas Shama, and IVF Michigan, a specialty in the treatment of infertility in men and women, a month full of happiness and joy, and may this month bring goodwill to everybody that is watching this video.
Ramadan Mubarak. Kanor Halal is donating to Islamic Relief USA to help feed over 1,000 people this Ramadan. Through June 14th, visit www.kanorramadan.com to click on the good deeds you've done, and together let's give hope to those in need. You can also share e-cards and delicious iftar recipes. Share the kahar and visit kanorramadan.com to support Kanor Halal's donation today.
And welcome back to Yellow Fight Back Radio. I'm Ray Hanania here at WNZK AM 690 Radio, Friday, June 8th. We're going to be taking calls at 248-557-3300 and talking to a real fascinating guest who's taken the time to give us a buzz this morning. I'm so happy to have Michael Rakowitz on the line. Hey, Michael, how are you?
I'm great, Ray. How are you?
I know that you're on a time schedule here and you got so much to do, but I really appreciate, first, not only you taking the time, but just the project that you've been working on, at Northwestern, and your artwork and recreating all this Iraqi culture. We have so many Iraqis and Chaldeans that listen to the show in Detroit, and of course, we've got a lot of people listening online too. But Michael, just give us a little thumbnail of who you are, what's your background, and what you're doing to recreate much of this lost Iraqi art, and why.
Well, I'm an artist. I teach at Northwestern University. I grew up in New York on Long Island, just outside the city. My grandparents and my mother emigrated from Iraq in 1946, and my grandfather was one of the first wave of Iraqis that settled in New York, or the Iraqi Jews. They were a Jewish family that left Baghdad as nationalist programs, started to emerge in places like Palestine, which would become Israel, and then, of course, Arab nationalism, and so they found themselves in kind of an impossible situation going forward. And so I grew up in a house where everything that they left behind in Iraq was attempted to be reproduced, and that was with some real objects like, the carpet that's on the floor, and the records that they brought over, the 78 records of Iraqi folk songs and reel-to-reel tapes, and then, of course, the spices, which they were able to, replicate by going to groceries like Sahadi in Brooklyn. And so I grew up with this Iraq that was emanating from the house being, stored in my DNA. And my grandparents were proud to be from Iraq. They were proud to be Arabs. They were proud to be from Baghdad. And it was a heartbreak, for them to leave. And so I feel like what they had really wanted to do was to make sure that that identity was not interrupted, by these other, bigger forces that, tend to erase the humanity of a people. And so, growing up, it was very normal for me. It wasn't exotic in any way, for me to think about the house that I was growing up in, the sounds that I was hearing, to know that my mother and my grandmother spoke Arabic when they didn't want me to understand something, and then as the first Gulf War unfolded in 1991, I was 17, and I immediately understood who I was politically, because I was terrified when I saw the place my grandparents fled to, more or less like, destroying the place that they came from. And at that point, I became split as a person. I understood my context as an Iraqi American, and I knew from that point on, as I saw Iraq, that the Iraq that my grandparents told me about being replaced by these green-tinted CNN images of the night vision of buildings being blown up, that I would be working for the rest of my life to try to rescue, that humanity and the stories that my grandparents had told me about this beautiful place that they'd come from. And so when the looting of the museum happened in 2003, I immediately wondered what would happen if all of those artifacts came back as ghosts. And so this long-term project that you alluded to in the introduction is unfortunately going to be a lifelong project, because there's over 8,000 artifacts that are still missing from the Iraq Museum, and now the project has grown to include the archaeological sites devastated by ISIS and other groups that have been looting.
And tell us about this project that you have. I know you're, and again, I hope I'm characterizing it properly. You're kind of recreating a lot of lost Iraqi art that was destroyed by war, by conflict, by ISIS. How are you? Because it's a unique process too that you're using too to restore it, aren't you?
Yeah,
Tell us a little bit about it, and which art. What art are you actually focused on, and how do you choose what you choose? There's got to be so much of it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what happened was, I in 2003 watched the looting happen, and then within weeks after the looting, the Oriental Institute, which is a Middle Eastern or a museum that's devoted to ancient Middle Eastern culture, Mesopotamian culture, and Persian culture, that's down at the University of Chicago. They went live with a database of the lost treasures from Iraq, and so it was a way of educating the world's public on just how much human culture, these antiquities have been wiped off the face of the earth. And then the other was to deter people that collect antiquities on a gray or a black market from purchasing anything that looks like, the thousands of objects that they were able to kind of put into this archive. And so I became fascinated with that archive and looking, every time I would click on one of the museum numbers, a photograph of the object would come up, and then the provenance information, and then status, which would say unknown or stolen or destroyed, which really, really hit me in my gut. And then, a couple years later, I was, for another project, importing Iraqi dates to the U.S., which is a very rare occurrence. And, it was for the first time in many years. And the desire was to have something that said product of Iraq. And, I worked closely with companies like Ziad, who advised me on, the fact that so many products that you see that they're products of Saudi Arabia, but they have dates in them. They sometimes have Iraqi dates in them. And so I was sitting in this store in Brooklyn that I was running, selling the Iraqi dates, and it would get, quiet at certain moments. And all this packaging of the food was so incredible, and I started to think about the fact that some of that food may have been coming from Iraq and wasn't able to say where it was from, because that was one of the ways that the sanctions were circumvented.
Right.
90 until 2003, and then, now it's in place because there's so many charges that the USDA and Homeland Security put on things that come from countries, that are, still considered in conflict zones, and you get hit with charges for that. So it's a way of it's kind of like a xenophobia in a way that's visited on the object. And so I started to think that, it would be really boring and also kind of, not unethical, but not right, to make a full-on replica, because the original can never be replaced. And so I thought if I was making the ghost of an object, I should make it out of papier-mâché, using this packaging of the Middle Eastern food stuff.
So you take products that have an identity through food. Is it just food items? Like the cans and labels and things that might have a Iraqi or identity, or do you use other things too, or just the food products, the wrapping, the labels, the cans? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's also the Arabic English newspapers that one finds in communities. In Chicago, we have the Future Times and a few other publications, and those are given away for free, in Middle Eastern stores and in mosques and other community centers that are frequented by the Arab American community. And for me, it was about trying to find those materials that in one way or another indicate, that there's an Arab American population. So it's like a cultural trait that's being used to make this thing that's no longer, in existence, or it's being hidden by a private collector. So it's, it's interesting to think about because, how do you mark, culture in the world? One of the things that my mother said to me when the Gulf War began in 1991 is she turned to us as the first images of war were coming across and said, there's no Iraqi restaurants in New York. And it was her way of pointing out just how invisible Iraqi culture was beyond oil and war.
Wow.
And so, you can't walk very far in Paris without coming across a North African market or a restaurant, so like that cultural puncture that gets created through like the trauma of something like occupation when it comes to like France and its wars in North Africa, or like, here in the United States, the very tense relationship that the United States has had with Mexico. There's like things start to flow both ways. And the invisibility of Iraqi culture was one that kind of, made it clear that this was a war that was being fought very comfortably, remotely, and it was very easy for the Americans to dehumanize the Iraqi people and Arabs in general. And so I wanted to, figure out some way of coming up with a material that was, not something that would be obvious for somebody to choose to make these objects out of, but would also, kind of
have some connection.
Exactly.
Yeah, and one of the ones, and I apologize if I mispronounce this. Being Arab, I should know this, especially being Christian Arab. The Lamassu, is that the proper pronunciation?
It's
you actually
forth, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, they call it Lamassu, Lamasu. There's so many different ways of saying it. So,
right.
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah.
And you built this, and it's not small. These objects that these are reproductions that you're doing. They're gigantic, like this Lamassu that was. Is it still in display at Trafalgar Square in London? I know that's where it was inaugurated after you put it. After you crafted this. And I have a photo of it from one that you brought when I saw it. It's just beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, well, the commission in Trafalgar Square was something that I had received. I got a nomination for this, temporary sculpture. It's going to be up for 2 years, so until March 2020. And when they first invited me, it was not an open call, but I was on a group of finalists, that they wanted to see what would happen, what our ideas would be. And
were they looking for Iraqi or just anything?
Just anything, just anything.
Any type of artwork, right? Mm-hmm. You proposed something, this Iraqi piece.
Yeah, and for me it was, I'm going to be working on this project until the end of my life. It's a project that's going to help with me simply because there's so much history that's been, destroyed in Iraq since 2003. It's just impossible to reconstruct everything. And when I was invited, to make a proposal, I was already researching what it would mean to reconstruct this Lamassu, this colossus that's like part bull, part lion, part eagle, part human, that features very, very prominently in Assyrian culture. And it was destroyed by ISIS at the Nergal Gate in Nineveh. And when I was researching the length of the Lamassu, I found out it was 14 feet. And when I got the blueprints for this, what they call the fourth plinth, it's basically a pedestal, a stone pedestal that was made in 1841 in London and remained empty because the city of London couldn't afford the sculpture that was supposed to go on there at the time. I found out that the length of that was exactly WDMV. So it just seemed like, what else would I do?
That would be the perfect one, right? Yeah.
And, you know, I have to deal with the London rains and an outdoor piece, so it can't be papier-mâché.
Right.
But, you know, with all this research that I did into dates, you know, date syrup was one of the products that came up that was, you know, being labeled as product of, you know, there's this famous brand called Basra, you know, and we know where Basra is, and it says product of Netherlands or product of Sweden. And, you know, so there are all these cans that are out in the world that are metal lithography, which means that, you know, there's no paper labels. They're actually printed directly onto the can. And so I thought to myself, that's the perfect material, you know, to put out into the environment. It'll withstand the rains and everything else. So it was basically like building it out of an armor.
Yeah, and like you said, this is going to be outdoors, so it has to be weather resistant. And just for people who are listening, just to remind you that we're talking with Michael Rakowitz. He's a Iraqi child of immigrants from Iraq. He happens to be Jewish. What I really like about Michael is that you know, he identifies as an Arab, you know, with the Arab people. And you know, I guess to me, it's so nice not to have to deal with the politics all the time. You know, we get Arabs and Jews together. We're always talking about the Middle East conflict. But it seems like in your life, you're kind of looking back at, you know, this purity that existed between Arabs, Jews, Christians, Muslims. You know, we all got together in the Middle East and, you know, in the Arab world, and it was a good time. Michael, just hang on I know that you can't stay, you only got a few more minutes. I got to do a real quick commercial break, but when we come back, we'll talk to you for a few more minutes before we let you go. Michael Rakowitz is my guest. His website is Michael Rakowitz, RAKOWITZ.com. You got to check it out. It's some really cool stuff there. I'm Ray Hanania. You're listening to Yella Fight Back Radio on WNZK Radio in Detroit, AM 690, broadcast also online around the world. And we're going to take some phone calls in a little bit at 248-557-3300. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back right after these messages.
Ramadan Mubarak. Kanor Halal is donating to Islamic Relief USA to help feed over 1,000 people this Ramadan. Through June 14th, visit www.kanorramadan.com to click on the good deeds you've done, and together let's give hope to those in need. You can also share e-cards and delicious iftar recipes. Share the kahar and visit kanorramadan.com to support Kanor Halal's donation today.
نهنئ الجالية المسلمة بحلول شهر رمضان الكريم. كل عام وأنتم بخير. الله يوفق الجميع ولا يتقبل الجميع إن شاء الله. والله يهدي بلادنا العربية أن تكون في أمان بحفظ الله تعالى. أسواق خاشات ميديتريان ماركت 14 مايل نورث ويسترن. نحن لدينا البضاعة العربية الممتازة والجيدة والنظيفة، ولدينا مطعم عربي فيه جميع أنواع الأكلات والسلطات وكل شيء يحتاجه البيت العربي أو البيت العراقي. ونشكر إذاعة صوت العرب في أمريكا.
Are you going to start a restaurant or grocery store soon? Do you need floor plans and designs? Call Naji Abood at 734-744-9796. Do you want to buy kitchen and restaurant equipment at discount prices? Call Naji Abood now, 734-744-9796. New Concept Products and Design, the trademark of kitchen equipment. 5% discount on all purchases of $75,000 or more. New Concept Products and Design, new location, 31185 Schoolcraft in Livonia. Learn more at www.newconceptproducts.com. Call Naji Abood, 734-744-9796.
يجتمعون ليحتفلوا معكم برمضان هذا العام في باقة من أقوى وأضخم إنتاجات الدراما الهندية. اربطوا أحزمة مقاعدكم وانضموا إلينا في رحلة شيقة وألوان متنوعة من الدراما على زي ألوان. لون رمضانك.
أبحث عن اشتراك في خدمة تلفزيونية جديدة، لكن صاحب المتجر أخبرني عن IPTV بوكس والتي تحتوي على القنوات العربية.
ادفع لمرة واحدة فقط واستمتع بالقنوات المميزة مدى الحياة مجانا.
يا له من عرض! لقد ظننت أنني تسرعت في الشراء، وفي غضون أسبوعين بدأت قنواتي المفضلة في الاختفاء. حاولت الاتصال بالشركة، عندها اكتشفت أنه ليس لدي تصريح لمشاهدة القنوات المميزة. يا لها من مضيعة للمال والوقت.
تفضل بزيارة checkyourbox.com اليوم للتأكد من أن جهاز IPTV بوكس الخاص بك مصرح به وأن قنواتك المفضلة متاحة وآمنة، ولا تنخدع بالسعر فقط.
The Rama Relief Foundation provides humanitarian aid into areas inside of war-torn Syria, as well as aid to the refugees who have fled to the neighboring countries in the Middle East. The foundation offers food baskets, container shipment, mental health, education, soup kitchens, and more. Go to ramarelief.org or call 248-990-4247. Any donation amount made to Rama will go to sustaining many lives. Call now 248-990-4247.
I have to talk with Layla El-Husseini about the one ad. I love it. Anytime you can put Arabian language and messaging over the backdrop of rock and roll music, I don't care what it is, I'm going to buy it. You're listening to Yellow Fight Back Radio here. I'm broadcasting out of Chicago through WNZK AM 690 Radio in Detroit. Mike is our producer in the studio. Our number is 248-557-3300. It is June 8th, Friday, and again, terrible news this morning. The suicide death of celebrity chef Anthony Bourdain from CNN. Maybe we'll find out later what happened, but it's just a tragedy. For a couple more minutes, I don't have a lot, maybe about 4 more or 5 minutes, we have Michael Rakowitz. He's a phenomenal artist. From Northwestern University. He's Iraqi. He happens to be Jewish. Such a beautiful embrace of Arab culture and especially Iraqi culture. He's been driven to reproduce through the work that he does Iraqi cultural items that were destroyed during years and years of war in Iraq and recently by the ISIL terrorists and everything. And one of his biggest pieces is the Lamassu that is on display. It's a giant piece of artwork at Trafalgar Square in London. And he was greeted by I think it was unveiled, correct, Michael, by the mayor of London at the time. Wasn't he, Sadiq Khan? Wasn't he there to kind of unveil this Lamassu artwork that you placed there?
Yes, indeed, and it was it was very beautiful. Having the chance to meet him and being able to be there with my family. My mom and my dad were there, and my mother.
Oh, that's cool. Now, are they your parents in England or are they here in the States?
No, they're here in the States. So
they got to travel there.
Yeah, it was like an amazing wedding. They were my mom. When I was a kid, when I was 10, my grandmother passed away. My grandfather from Iraq passed away, and when I was 2, and so here were these 2 elders that we were living in their house. Who had at that point. Were no longer with us. And half the family actually, when they left Iraq, had emigrated to London. And so in 1984, we took a trip to London right after my grandmother had died. And in a way, this was a family holiday trip, but it was also a way to reconnect, with family that remembered Iraq, could heal together. And so it was at the British Museum that year when my mother brought me into the room that has the Assyrian lion hunt, the lion hunt of Ashurbanipal, And she sat me down on the bench that was there in the middle of the room of the British Museum, and she saw my face, as I was taking in these incredible stone reliefs, and she said, this is from the place that I'm from, the place that your grandmother was from, and the place where you're from. And she said, and it was the first comic book ever.
Listen, whenever you can do something like that, that always has substance and meaning. We got one caller just dying to say hello to you, if it's okay, and I know you got to go real quick, so we're going to let you go. But let's just bring Jerry on here at Yellow Fight Back Radio live with Michael Rakowitz. Jerry.
Thank you, Mr. Ray Hanania, for taking my call. Good morning to you, and good morning to my brother, your guest, Mr.
Good
Mike.
guy. This guy, Michael, is just phenomenal.
Mike, I want to say to you, Shalom, Salamu Alaikum, and in Chaldean, Shlamilluch.
Shukran.
Mike, I know Mr. Ray, he doesn't have too much time, but I want to say to you, I'm very proud for you being a Jewish from Iraqi background. So indeed, you are a brother in the blood, and I honor you, and I won't be surprised to say to you, I born in Baghdad, and I'm very proud. My next door neighbor, they were Iraqi Jewish, and we lived together in peace among the other neighbors who they were brother Muslim. Even my nanny, when Mama, she was busy, my nanny, she was a Jewish. So we are one family, and I'm very proud of you. And in the meantime, Michael, the most Iraqi singers and the music, al-maqamat al-Iraqiyya, like Nazim Ghazali, Muhammad Zubanji, the foundation was established by Iraqi Jewish. Even right now, I hear in Tel Aviv, there is Iraqi nightclub, Jewish people. They sing every weekend in the Sabbath, the Iraqi music, and you are welcome to be back to Iraq.
And we got to get Michael to come to Detroit, because there's a huge Iraqi Chaldean community there. You'd be feeling at home, believe me.
Right, I will invite you. Right, yeah. I will invite you and Michael to one of those Iraqi Chaldean restaurants, and I will pay the tab. And just let me know when.
Jerry. We eat a lot. Believe me, we're Arabs. Listen, Jerry, I got to let you go because Michael has to leave too. But Jerry, it's so nice.
Right. I just want to ask Michael if he loves any type of Iraqi cooking a dish. What is his favorite dish?
Oh my God, I love it all. I love.
Is it dolma? Is it vodka? Is it tashrif?
Tashrif, I love maskoof, I love it all.
Maskoof means the barbecue fish on the Tigris River, Abu Nawas in Baghdad. Thank you very much, Mike. I love to talk to you.
You're the man, Jerry, for calling. We appreciate it. Give our guest a good welcome like that.
Salam and shalom and shlamilluch. Thank you.
Right. Listen, Michael, I know you only got a couple seconds, so I'm going to let you go. But any final thoughts you want to say or anything that you want to leave our listeners with before we let you go?
Well, I think that call is the most beautiful way to end. I thank Jerry for calling in, and he's talking about a past, that's not so long ago. When you think about the landscape of world history, a pre-1948 Middle East, a pre-1940s Middle East, had that indecipherable in some ways, kind of like the difference between people was not as registered at all, and there was what the Spanish call convivencia, and I look at that period of time not as a nostalgia, but it's been interrupted, and I think that we can, take the power in our own hands and be able to kind of like wield the past as an example of how the future can be going forward. you know, and he's mentioning everything with the music. I mean, Fogam Nachal and all the amazing Iraqi music that was, you know, Jewish musicians with Quranic singers. I mean, all of that was a mix, you know, and I think that's one of the things that I always feel when I go to Palestine, when I go to Jordan, when I go to, you know, an Iraqi nightclub here in Chicago or anywhere else. It always feels like coming home.
Well, Michael, it was a real pleasure to have you on, and seriously, keep doing what you're doing. You need any help publicizing it, you let us know. We'll be more than happy to help you, and it was very kind of you to take time out of your morning. I know we've kind of a little encroached on some personal time here, but we really appreciate it. Just a pleasure to talk to you. You're a great guy. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you so much, Ray. Thank you.
All right, you take it easy, and you have a great day. This is Ray Hanania here at Yellow Fight Back Radio at WNZK, AM 690, broadcasting out of Detroit, but I'm in Chicago, and our number is 248-557-3300. We will have a podcast of this radio show that will be posted later today, so you can always listen to any of the interviews that we do or the radio shows that we discuss. I want to thank Jerry for calling in, too. Our number, if you want to call in, is 248-557-3300. We're here until 9 o'clock Detroit time, so we got a few more minutes. But we're going to take our last break, and when we come back, maybe we can talk about Anthony Bourdain, who it is reported this morning committed suicide, took his life. In 2013, he did a show on, he went to Palestine and Israel, and I think Gaza. And, you know, it took him a long time to get there. He was Jewish, or I think Anthony said he was half Jewish. And he wanted to go there and talk about food. He's a celebrity chef. And he did his trip there. And, he, you know, I think most people who saw it, Jewish, Arab, they all loved it. But there were a few people that kind of took him to task because he seemed too sympathetic to one side or the other. But that was a good soul, and we're just sorry to see him go. I'm Ray Hanania. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we can take your calls, talk about any topics you want. So much has been going on. And I will also be here next Friday, too. So remember that next Friday, I'll be back. We're going to talk with Warren and Amal David about the campaign to make April Arab Heritage Month in the United States. So we'll see how that goes. We'll talk to them next week. We're going to be right back right after these messages.
رمضان كريم.
في رمضان زي ألوان تنفرد بأحدث وأقوى إنتاجات الدراما الهندية التي لن تجدها في أي مكان آخر. في سباق الدراما لرمضان هذا العام لنا هدف واحد هو إرضاؤك. I like it. زي ألوان لون رمضانك.
Our team at Life wanted to say thank you to all of our donors, supporters, and friends. With your help, we were able to provide food baskets and iftar meals to over 130,000 people across the world. This year, we want to continue our mission to feed more people across the globe during Ramadan. With your generous support, you can help make this mission a reality. Life for Relief and Development would like to wish you and your family a blessed Ramadan.
كل عام وانتم بخير، واتمنى للعالم العربي السلام والوئام. بحييكم من اسواق زمزم، ويوجد عندنا تخفيضات كتيره على الاسواق وعلى الجروسري وعلى الخضار وعلى اللحوم. عندنا لحوم حلال، والمطعم كله لحوم حلال كمان. واتمنى لكم السلامه والدوام، وزورونا دايما هتلاقوا تخفيضات كتيره وكبيره وتجدوا كل ما يسركم. وتحياتي لصوت العرب من امريكا ومدام ليلى الحسيني، واشكركم كتير جدا. كل عام وانتم بخير.
The Rama Relief Foundation provides humanitarian aid into areas inside of war-torn Syria, as well as aid to the refugees who have fled to the neighboring countries in the Middle East. The foundation offers food baskets, container shipment, mental health, education, soup kitchens, and more. Go to ramarelief.org or call 248-990-4247. Any donation amount made to Rama will go to sustaining many lives. Call now 248-990-4247.
Ziyad brand. Quality products from our family to yours. Ziyad Brothers Importing offers the finest quality products, including brands like Sultan, Kraft, Nestle, Hook, Rico Picon, Donna, and many more. Ask your retailer to carry these fine products because you deserve the very best. For more information, visit our website at www.ziyad.com. That's www.ziyad.com. Ziyad, quality products from our family to yours.
Ramadan Mubarak. Kanor Halal is donating to Islamic Relief USA to help feed over 1,000 people this Ramadan. Through June 14th, visit www.kanorramadan.com to click on the good deeds you've done, and together let's give hope to those in need. You can also share e-cards and delicious iftar recipes. Share the kahar and visit kanorramadan.com to support Kanor Halal's donation today.
And welcome back to Yellow Fight Back Radio. I'm Ray Hanania here at WNZK AM 690, broadcasting out of Detroit, live on radio AM 690, and I'm in Chicago. And we're online. You can go to my website at hanania.com or thedailyhookah.com. Get all the information about everything I do. My entire life is there. In fact, I had my identity stolen, and a week later, the police called to say that the man who stole my identity was begging me to take it back. He said, because there was so much on me and so many people were after me, so he couldn't handle it. Our number is 248-557-3300. If you want to call in, we got a few more minutes, but I thought maybe we'd go over some of the topics. If you go to our website, we got a lot of news stories, a lot of congressional races. Sam Jamal out in the 39th Congressional District. We got a story on him at the ArabDailyNews.com. He was unsuccessful in his bid to make it in the primary there. They have what's called the top two primary, where the top two contenders, Republican or Democrats. It's an open primary run. Unfortunately, he fell short. But in the 50th district, I think Ammar Campo Najjar, Palestinian, I think he made it into the top two, and we're just waiting for those official results to come in. There aren't a lot of Arab members in Congress, so it's an important topic. If you get a chance, educate yourself about all that. You can go to the ArabDailyNews.com, read that story on Sam Jamal, read the story on Election Day in California, what it means for Arab Americans in Congress. And, of course, the big news this week, I think, is the death of Anthony Bourdain from the American culinary chef who was reported took his life this morning. The Smithsonian once called him the original rock star of the culinary world and the Elvis of bad boy chefs. I think he first kind of broke into this the public light in 1999 when he wrote a New York article called "Don't Eat Before Reading This," and then his best-selling book that came out the next year called Kitchen Confidential: Adventures in the Culinary Underbelly. What was cool about Anthony Bourdain was he wasn't just talking about food, he was talking about the whole environment around food, the culture of life that food, empowers and energizes and fuels. And so in 2013, he actually went to Israel and Palestine and talked about with people on both sides there. And I think he got a lot of criticism because, and he's part Jewish, but he got a lot of criticism because he asked this settler, how come he didn't, erase or remove the racist anti-Arab graffiti against the Arabs that was on the walls of the restaurant, the Jewish restaurant or the Israeli restaurant. And the Israeli restaurant owner was a little shocked that somebody would ask him that. He's probably one of the, the safe havens of objectivity that you see in the media. You don't see much in today's news media. It's very biased. It's very political. It's one-sided. And, of course, I'm not talking about the op-ed columnists like myself. I mean, I'm paid to tell you my opinion, so I am biased. I am one-sided. But I don't pretend to be an objective reporter or an objective journalist. It's the people who claim to be objective journalists who are the criminals. These are people who say, oh, yeah, we're objective, we're fair. And then what they do is they use their position to write biased, slanted, inaccurate, partisan, politically favored articles and reporting. And that's what's wrong, with the media. And Anthony Bourdain stood above all that. He was different. He just gave it to you just the way it was. And for a while, he was on the Travel Channel. I don't know if you remember seeing him on No Reservations. And then in 2013, he went to CNN. And like I said, he did go to the Middle East, which for a very memorable program, if you get a chance, go online and see that. Anthony Bourdain dead this morning at 61. And it's not often that we get to actually report news. And this is tragic news, in my opinion. I urge you to go to some of our websites. By the way, my son, Aaron, published a new book. It's his first book. The kid's only 17 years old. And he used his iPhone 6 to write this novel. The King's Pawn is what it's called. It's on Amazon. You can go online at Amazon.com. It's called The King's Pawn, Aaron Hanania. He wrote this book using his iPhone, 60,000 words, 200 pages. I can't even get a post on my iPhone. It takes me like 10 minutes with my fat little fingers trying to hammer out a couple sentences on my iPhone. And this kid writes a whole novel that's celebrity attention and taken off like crazy. So if you like science fiction and you're interested, you can look it up. His website is aaron411news.com. Anyway, listen, I want to thank everybody for joining me this morning. I really appreciate it. Remember, I'm going to be here next Friday. I'll be here next Friday, 8 a.m. in Detroit on WNZK AM 690. We're going to be talking with Amal and Warren David about the campaign to make April Arab American Heritage Month. Go to my website at thedailyhookah.com. You have a great time. Michael, thank you so much for helping us produce the show. And to Michael Rakowitz, our guest, and look for the podcast afterwards. Have a great week. Talk to you next week. I'm Ray Hanania. Goodbye, everybody. Bye-bye.